Whenever I hear feedback like this, the only response I have is, please do not speak unless you plan to improve the silence. Hey friends, welcome to the channel. I'm Tirso. Here is a video that nobody asked for, feedback. I feel like it's the elephant in the room that people don't often talk about. When we're creating or designing, we can get lost in the details and get stuck in some of the design choices that we made along the way. We can't always see everything on our own, which is where feedback comes in. Feedback is not optional. It is part of the design process. It is also a mathematical certainty that you cannot produce your best work without feedback. In this video, I want to talk about what feedback is, how to handle it, and when you should and shouldn't listen, because that's also a thing. We need to establish what feedback is and isn't. It's not just part of the design process, it's also part of your growth as a designer. First, feedback is an opportunity to make your work stronger. It is a second or third set of eyes. It is also a different perspective on how the work communicates or achieves client goals. Remind yourself of this list because they are all great things to your benefit. Now, here is what feedback isn't. It's not a personal attack. It is not a judgment of your value as a designer. Also, it is not always correct or worth applying, so don't completely abandon your idea. I guess that's dependent on what feedback is, but go with me on this. And last, it is not about impressing the person who's giving it to you. When I say good versus bad feedback, I'm not talking about positive or negative feedback. A better way to think about it is helpful versus not helpful. One thing I learned in design school is that there needs to be substance behind feedback, otherwise it's worthless. If somebody says, I don't like it, it's no different than somebody saying, I like it. What does that mean? Unless you love it enough that the project is approved and done, it's not helpful, it's just a statement. The person receiving the feedback needs a why so that they know how to move forward with the next iteration. Another phrase that doesn't have any substance starts with, it looks like. I roll so hard when they say this on Project Runway. It looks like a pumpkin. So what do you want me to do about that? Do we like pumpkins? Do you prefer it to look like a pineapple? There is nothing you can do with this phrase. Whenever I hear feedback like this, the only response I have is, please do not speak unless you plan to improve the silence. The phrases I'm talking about, which usually come from marketing, are make it pop, needs more energy, or the greatest offender, make it splashy. This is a Jedi mind trick. It sounds like they gave you feedback, but again, there's no path forward. And the gaslighting, I bet you every dollar I got, the person who gave you this feedback left that conversation in full belief that they gave you the clearest direction. This kind of feedback usually starts with, I don't know, something feels off, or maybe we could try, and the last one that makes me want to light myself on fire, can't we just? Actually, we can't just, because if I could just, I would have. By the way, that's not actually how you should react. I will cover receiving feedback in the next section. But real talk, there is usually nothing good that comes after any of those phrases. It also insinuates that maybe you missed something in your process, which is not what feedback is. And that brings me to the last type of bad feedback. If the feedback targets you more than the work, just end the conversation. Unhelpful, there's nothing to move forward with, and we're not interested. Perhaps send them the last segment of this video so that they can learn how to give proper feedback. I do want to end this section on a positive note, good feedback, which is the feedback that gives you clear direction for next steps and revisions. Heaven forbid someone actually be helpful. For example, the color palette feels heavy in this area. Is it possible to lighten it or add white space so that it breathes more? This section is really strong. Can you apply a similar treatment across the other pages? And we can look at it again. Clear directions, that's all we're looking for. Now that you know the difference between good and bad feedback, what do you actually do when you get bad feedback? Trust me, we all get it, and if you don't know how to handle it, you're going to waste a lot of energy fighting battles that aren't worth it. The first thing that should go without saying is that you have to listen, and for the people in the back, We listen and we don't judge. As designers, we have to be open to feedback from every angle. Ideas come from all places, not just the art department. It is our job to hear what people are intending to say and translate that into life. Yes, basically, we need to be interpreters, mind readers, all the things. As we just established, not all feedback is created equal. Some feedback is worth leaning into, some feedback you just have to nod and smile, and others just throw it straight into the trash. In this scenario, take control of the conversation. If they simply say, I like it, or I don't like it, ask what specifically, or is there anything that we can push more? I mean, listen, I get it. We all have those projects that we just wanted approved and out the door. I'm not talking about those. What I am telling you is to subconsciously accept the fact that you did not nail it on the first try. Even if you did and you can push it an ounce more, why wouldn't you want that version of the project for your portfolio? I'm going to play a little devil's advocate on this one because I do believe people generally mean well. It doesn't mean they're actually wrong. They're just speaking out of emotion. I think it's also important to understand that most people don't speak the language of design. If they say, make it pop, look at your design and assess. Does it look flat? Could you maybe push or pull the image or type through color or scale? White space is also an underrated approach and sometimes can just do the trick. If they say, make it splashy, I don't know what to do with this one. It is just an unenviable position to be in. At my last job, I firmly told the marketing director that the word splashy is no longer acceptable during review, and that put a stop to that. Also, if you yourself don't speak the language of design, then you're going to go back to your desk telling yourself, make it splashy, and God bless your heart. Like I said earlier, this is the most frustrating feedback, and to validate any of you who feel the same, I find feedback like this undermines the work that you put in. When you create a design system, the can't we just comment tends to break that system because it really is a 2-cent response. The most immediate move here is to explain your thinking. Help them understand why you made some of the design decisions that you did. Also, shift into a full-on salesperson. Go further and explain, here's how the design decisions can translate into the other extensions of the project and why it works. I like to leave the conversation with the mindset that I fought for this and I won. And after all that, if you still can't convince them, maintain your professionalism and revisit a direction that accommodates their request. The next conversation you have can be comparing what you originally did versus what they're asking for, and you can decide from there versus imagining, can't we just? We have to recognize this for what it is. If the feedback isn't about the work, that says more about their professionalism, not yours, but still remain calm, very demure, very mindful, and shift the conversation back to the work. A simple, so how do you feel about the design? Usually communicates that you're not interested in entertaining their conversation. I'm also not trying to get anyone in trouble, so you have to feel this one out. As much as it's our job to handle bad feedback, it is also our job to not perpetuate it. So we have to learn how to provide good feedback. This helps your growth as a designer because you're reacting to the design in live time. This helps you edit your design decisions as you're designing and also helps you develop your eye so you can see the things that you like and the things that you don't like. Giving good feedback isn't just about being nice. I think it's more beneficial to them if you're clear and honest. I would say the goals of good feedback is to start with what's working. The sandwich approach is an oldie but a goodie. Open with the things they did well, then things they need to fix or work on, and then end with something positive. You should also acknowledge their effort. People respond better if they feel heard. Acknowledging the work that went into the project goes a long way. In particular, if the design completely misses a mark, I think this approach provides a level of respect before you offer critique. You should also give actual suggestions. This is super important because they can go back to their desk with some ideas to start them off instead of trying to decipher what you just said. And last thing to keep in mind, this is a critique. That doesn't mean you can be a critic. This is not about sounding smart, it's about helping them improve. I will say when I provide feedback, I'm not here to sugarcoat. but I'm also not here to tear anyone down. As I've mentored designers over the years, I've found that there are many different personality types, which means they require different approaches to feedback in order for them to do good work. Some designers need a cheerleader. Not everything is going to be amazing, but I can focus mostly on what they're doing well and then tack on the things that need to be worked on. Sometimes they struggle. By the end of the project, I do make it a point to talk to them and just say, hey, I know that project was rough, but I really appreciate you pushing through to get it done. For those designers that do need a cheerleader, they do take a little bit longer to grow, but as long as they're progressing, what else can I ask for? Some designers need a drill sergeant. Giving them aggressive deadlines helps push them. I know they can do the work, they just need that little nudge. But I do have to be mindful of how hard I push them to avoid burnout. There are also designers that are philosophers. These are the ones that present their work as my vision was. And sometimes I just need to be diplomatic and be like, just put the fries in the bag, bro. After we leave the conversation, I need to have confidence that they can deliver the revisions correctly. And I have less when they say things like, is it heavy because of my choices or my fear? The last thing I want to say about feedback is to have empathy. I like to talk to people, not at them. So before I give any feedback, I usually ask, how did the project go? Whatever their answer is, that provides me with more context to understand what happened. So my feedback will be based less on assumptions. Designers have definitely told me that they weren't inspired, which is totally fine. I've run into projects where I too wasn't inspired, so I get it. When this happens, I shift the conversations from the work to how can I help you? Do you need help pulling research? Do you want to have a quick brainstorm? Sometimes they just need a break from the project, so I might suggest, let's go for a walk outside and grab some coffee. We can talk about the project along the way. Regardless of what happened in the process, at least now they don't feel like they're alone. All right, that's all I have on giving feedback. Feel free to give me feedback in the comments below. Gentle reminder to not be a critic. Check out more content on the channel, and I'll see you next time.